So on Saturday, we were streaming the Hunter Classic over on Twitch, and someone asked about the new guns here in Call of the Wild, and as I brought out the 9.3 in Classic, because I had it with me to show it off, I realized that I missed something just incredibly obvious, and that is that there are multiple guns that fire the 9.3x74 ammo in the Hunter Classic. So I actually think maybe this gun, the other gun that fires the 9.3 ammo, might be a better option for the Hunter Call of the Wild, and actually maybe a more likely one to be added to the game. So let's hop over to the Hunter Classic, take a look at that gun, and basically why I think it is going to be maybe the more likely choice to be added to the game. This is the drilling combination gun, and if you couldn't tell by the name or the looks of it, it is not a normal weapon. This gun is essentially a side-by-side shotgun with a rifle barrel underneath. Now, as I said, this gun fires 9.3x74R ammo. That is, of course, the one rifle barrel. It also fires 16 gauge. That could be slugs, buckshot, or birdshot. Now, again, this is all speculation, but if they were to add this gun to Call of the Wild, does that then mean they're adding a 16 gauge to the Hunter Call of the Wild? Now, they could just decide to, for the shotgun barrels, choose different gauges. Maybe they'll go 12 gauge, maybe they'll go 20 gauge, or maybe they'll go 16 gauge and only have that ammo available for this weapon. But actually, regardless of that, just for a second, think of the size of Weapon Pack 1 DLC. That had 3 weapons, the recurve, the 22, and the crossbow. So let's say they add this exact gun that I'm talking about and the 16 gauge to go along with it that would fire the same ammo. We'd be looking at 3 weapons, obviously this drilling combo gun, the 16 gauge I just mentioned, and we'd be getting some weapon that fires the 7.62x54R ammo. The other option is we get, say they actually do this exact gun, but instead of 16 gauge, it fires 12 gauge, so they don't add a new shotgun. We're still kind of looking at 3 weapons, as this gun is essentially a 2-in-1, and we have the one that fires the 7.62, so I mean, at least it makes it reasonable. Even if they only have 2 weapons, this is essentially the third when you count that extra barrel. So in the last video where I talked about the new weapons, we went over how powerful the 9.3 is here in Classic and how it can take down Water Buffalo with a double lung shot. We're not going to get into how powerful the 9.3 is again because we've already seen it. It's being fired out of a different gun, but at least in this game it is just as powerful. What I do want to get into is the 16 gauge and how useful it could be in different loadouts for Call of the Wild, as the new lung shot changes have made things a little difficult to get the perfect loadout. So most maps in Call of the Wild now have a small game species, and that might be what actually throws off the loadouts the most because you want to have that 22 for integrity on them. I mean, when you find a max level of one of those small animals, really you don't have time to be scrambling to go get a different weapon. They tend to be difficult to find again. But also, of course, you want the larger calibers as you want to be able to take out the big game. The nice thing is most maps also have a really large species, so even if the 9.3 is only relegated to those maybe moose or above, you're still looking at a really useful weapon because of course you have that 9.3 and the ability to switch to either birdshot or buckshot and be able to take out the smaller game. So here in Classic, mouse button 3 switches between the rifle barrel and the 2 shotgun barrels. Now I know they couldn't do exactly that in Call of the Wild, as that is defaulted to removing the scope, but basically whatever button they would choose if they did add the gun to the game, that would be one button push and you're switching from an ammo type that can take out very large game to an ammo type that could take small tier to mid tier game. Now I brought this up while I was streaming in Classic, and immediately we had multiple people saying they would love that gun in Call of the Wild, as would I. This thing is insane, and as said, it might solve a lot of loadout issues when you could eliminate the 22, and possibly eliminate either the 338 or whatever other large gun you're carrying, when you could just have this and basically take care of both of those, and that might, it depends on the weight they choose, might allow for an extra gun, or at least an extra collar, maybe the medkit or set eliminator to be carried as well, which would be really nice. I mean, we have all those items in Call of the Wild, and a lot of times don't get to use them because the loadouts we need take up all the space we have. And that is pretty much going to do it for this video. And again, this is entirely speculation. They could choose any gun in the universe. I just somewhat think it's likely they would go for one that's already in Classic. And I wanted to make this video to let you guys know I thought I was wrong about which 9.3 they would choose from Classic, because as said throughout the entire video, this one seems to fit more. And as for the red deer, you guys might remember in the last video I didn't understand why there was a red deer on the ammo box. Basically, from the comments you guys have said, not only is it a super popular round to use on red deer, and also evidently it was developed in Germany, so maybe they're just trying to kind of show like the real life aspect and maybe not necessarily indicate what it's going to be ethical for in the game. But again, I might be entirely wrong. They could choose anything they wish. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I feel like maybe this is a bit more accurate if they were to choose something from Classic. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow for the live stream.